Hey guys, Anti-Hunters Exposed. I'm Steve.
And I'm Dave here with this week's topic. It's going to be about how the antis say that hunters don't know about animals. We don't know anything about animals. This idea was from Sport Bike and Hunter. Thank you for the topic idea. First of all, in order to be a successful hunter, you have to know the animals. You have to know what animals like what habitats.
You have to learn about their habits, their movements, where they're moving at in the daytime, where they're moving at, you know, where they're coming out at dark time, where their trails are, where their bedding areas are.
Another thing is the food source. If you don't have a good food source in the area, most likely you're not going to have too much deer, unless it's just their bedding area. If they're bedding in the area, then that's one thing. But unless it's the rut, you don't want to get too close to the bedding area anyway. So you got to know what food source is there for them. You got to know what they like to eat at certain times of the year. The one place, for instance, at the beginning of the season, this is a place I hunt. At the beginning of the season, there's a lot of undergrowth and everything. They're eating the little nubs off the prickers and bushes and berries and stuff. And then about a half mile, quarter mile down, a few properties down, the acorns start falling. And her property was logged out. That's why there's so much undergrowth. So they don't like it there anymore. And they go and they move down there. So unless you got your deer out of there within the first few weeks, most likely you see one, you know, wandering through here and there. But the main portion of the deer go to a different area. You have to know this in order to be successful. You have to know this in order to be a good hunter.
Not only do you need to know what types of foods they're eating, you need to know what times, you know, they're eating those foods. What times they're coming to the acorns. If you have cornfields, what time they're coming to those. The deer could be bedding a mile away from you and coming into your food source right at nighttime, or they could be coming in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You got to find out what times they're coming into what food sources, and that way you know when you can set up in that.
The time of the year also plays a big role in this as far as temperature. The deer, in the summertime, they don't have a real thick coat, so they don't really have too much of a problem moving in the high heat. Once you get a little bit later into the fall, the deer, they start building on a thick coat. So if your deer are getting their winter coat on and getting prepped for winter, and you get a warm front end, you're pretty much usually wasting your time going out there because it's so warm and the deer got that warm winter coat on. It uses too much of their energy to move. Hunters got to know the time of the year, if the deer are starting to put on their winter coat or not, and if it's worth going out and sitting with the temperature. It'd be like if you wrapped yourself in a wool sweatshirt in the middle of summer and you went walking around and running around in the woods. You're going to sweat, you're going to get exhausted, and you're going to tire yourself and have no energy. It's the same way with the deer. And you have to know these things. In the winter, the cold, when it's really, really cold, the deer have to move to stay warm. They got to get up every few hours, and they got to move to stay warm. At the same time, if you got a real windy blizzard, you know, it's super cold, usually the deer can't hear the predators. It's really windy, it's really noisy. They got that cold wind cutting them, and they don't want to be up and moving in it. So what they'll do is they bed down on the opposite side of a brush pile or a bush or a big cliff hangover or something, and they sit on the back, the opposite side of the wind. If the wind's coming from the north, they'll stay on the south side of something to break the wind, and so you know they don't got that cold wind cutting them. This is another thing you got to know in order to be a successful hunter. What are the deer going to do in certain temperatures? What are the deer going to do in certain, you know, in the warm and the cold at that day, as far as the weather plays a factor?
Other things you got to know to be a successful hunter is weather conditions and things. A lot of people don't know that if it's storming out real nice, if you can withstand it, that's the time to see a lot of deer. A lot of deer, their senses are too strong, so when it's raining real hard and the wind's blowing and this and that, sometimes you'll see them right out in the middle of a field just standing there because, you know, there's too many noises going on in the woods. Other reasons why they do this is because, like, when the rain's hitting the leaves and, you know, the wind's blowing through the leaves and this and that, they can't hear predators sneaking up on them. Same goes for turkeys. You'll catch them out in the middle of fields, you know, just standing there. That way they can see what's coming in what's coming in close to them, what's, you know, stalking them. When we're sitting in our tree stands, we're constantly seeing the deer's reactions to everything around them. Whether it be a squirrel running up and down a tree or running through the leaves, or a chipmunk, or birds coming in, you're constantly studying the deer's reactions to those noises and other noises around so you can see how they react.
And it's not just deer, it's all animals. Anytime we see an animal moving in the woods, whether it be a chipmunk, a squirrel, a turkey, a rabbit, a coyote, a fox, a raccoon, a deer, whatever it is, we're constantly studying how they react, what they do, why they do it, and we try to figure these animals out. We try to learn as much as possible about wildlife and the animals in the woods and birds or whatever. Whatever the animal is, whatever species, we're constantly watching, we're constantly studying, and we're constantly learning. We're not just Googling up something like the antis do, trying to figure out, you know, excuses and comments or whatever you guys do, which is 90% from other antis and lies. We're constantly studying the animals in the woods and getting the actual experience of what happens, of what they do, on how they react. So to say hunters don't know anything about animals is completely absurd. Thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Check out the other videos and the More from Hunter Extreme 07. And tune in next time.